Hold on. It's getting to live. Hold on. We had about 20 people live with us yesterday.
It says right now on mine that it's now streaming live.
Okay. We had about 20 people live with us yesterday.
It says right now on mine that it's now streaming live.
Okay. We had about 20 people live with us yesterday. Well, here's
right now on mine that it's now streaming live.
Here's these two rookies again, Coach. Here's these two rookies doing a YouTube live again. And how you doing, Coach Hargett?
Good. How you doing?
Good. It's early out here in California. I hadn't even brushed my hair, man, but wanted to get you on here and talk about a couple of things that are on our mind. And appreciate you doing this, brother. I want to tell everybody that is able to go live. Yesterday, there was a couple of guys that asked some live text questions on the YouTube, and I cannot, and Coach Hargett cannot see them. If you do want to ask any questions, you can just DM us at S2A System or at Coach Hargett. And on our Twitters, and DM us, follow us, and Coach Hargett will answer all your questions. Speaking of that, Coach, coaching staffs are dwindling, but there's more jobs. I mean, the population's growing, so more high schools open up. There's more head coaches, but there's less assistants, and we got an idea about S2A helping in that realm. You want to discuss that in a minute?
Yeah, I think that's really what Surface to Air is all about. That's one of the big reasons why I think we fill a void in that market is, to your point, the population of the United States is 330 million people now. I think there's like 17,000 high schools in the country, which means if just theoretically, let's say, for instance, they all played football, that's 17,000 guys are head football coaches. Well, that means that you need 17,000 head coaches, but that means you need 34,000 offensive and defensive coordinators, which means you need something like 68,000 more assistants just to have a four-man staff. And so obviously we know that not every school's got a football program, but if we extrapolate that data out, I think the question you have to ask is, if the good coaches on a staff all become OCs and DCs and head coaches, how many more good receivers coaches and running back coaches and D-line coaches are there? Now, obviously some staffs are blessed, and there's 8 or 9 guys on that staff that do a great job. A lot of times those guys win a lot of games, win a lot of state championships, and send a lot of guys to college. But I've personally been on staffs where there may be 10 people on the staff, but there's only 3 or 4 that really can dedicate the time, that have the knowledge base and the experience base to really sit around and talk ball and formulate schematic answers to problems. And so that's what Surface to Air really provides, is we feel like we are providing those extra assistant coaches on someone's staff. We're providing not only the schematic advantage and an experience advantage, but we feel like we're putting all of our members onto your staff and helping your staff be able to talk ball and formulate answers to problems. And, as we speak right now, we're in 2 countries, the United States and Japan, and we're in 32 out of the 50 states and growing. And so, we bring not just ourselves and our experience, but all those coaches around the country and their experiences to your staff. And I think that's what the huge advantage to S2A membership really is.
Yeah, I think one thing that really stands out with you, if a guy wants to talk to you, they got access to you. It's not just a list of videos and a list of here's a couple of diagrams, here's a PDF, hey, go to it. Everybody has a plan until they get punched right in the mouth. But when a guy does get punched in the mouth, so to speak, they can come back to you. You're accessible. I think that's what makes a big difference.
Well, that's one of the things that I really wanted to do as a consultant that was a little bit different, is because when I was a head coach when I was 20 years old. And so, when I started out, there was a lot of times you'd make the call to people and you'd say, hey, can you help me out? Can you give me advice? Can you tell me about this? Tell me about that. And I had people literally slam the door in my face. They're like, if you should already know that. If you don't know that, tough luck, it's on you. And I just don't really feel like that's a good way to treat people. I'm obviously not going to help somebody that's on my schedule, but helping somebody that's another state away or a whole half a state away or whatever, that just makes good sense. And what surface to air allows us to do is not only help people down the road, it allows us to help people in states all over the country. And as I've gotten older, now I have kids, it's kind of a priority to me to help save the game of football and see the game of football go in a positive direction. And I think surface to air is helping do that in many ways.
Amen. Let's talk about a core tenet of S2A, and that's the GPS shell in terms of teaching a concept. So what I'm pulling up here, can you see that well, Coach?
Yep.
A core tenet of the S2A is shell and teaching a concept through a practice shell. Would you sort of extrapolate this out using your fancy word, Coach?
Yeah. So what we've done in the shell period, and we're going to run basically three shell periods every practice. So what I'm going to do is, if my base run for the week is inside zone, the first two shell periods are both going to be inside zone based plays. So the third period, and they're not all in a row, but the third period is going to be my secondary run. So let's say this was my secondary run for the week. This is sniffer counter tray. There would be a period in practice where we would go to shells period, and all of the skill guys would be in this shell game. The offensive line would be removed. So they would be with the O-line coach, and they would be blocking counter tray versus every front that we think we're going to see that week, all the different D-line twists and stunts and pinches and crashes and all that sort of stuff. The skill guys are going to stay behind, and they're basically going to run the RPO concept versus a look. Now, you can see here that I'm using S2A terminology. We don't use Will, Sam, and Mike and all that stuff. We've got rid of all that junk. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably only put out there the two guys you see in the green triangles there. And specifically, I don't use defensive players for that. The reason I don't use defensive players for it is kids don't always do what you ask them to do. If I put two coaches at end and at R2, I will get the look I want, and I can communicate very quickly with those adults. And I can say, hey, I want to squeeze scrape right here, coach. And so the coach playing D end is going to squeeze down. Quarterback's going to pull the football. He's going to run his veer track outside the defensive end. And I'll tell R2, I want you to scrape right there into the quarterback. The quarterback at that point would have to pull the ball, come downhill, and execute the throw out there to the now screen in the stack set. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the read that I want, and I'm going to get the rep that I want from my kids, and I'm going to model that before I get to team time at the end. Another way I can do this is I can say to the quarterback, hey, look, L2's blitzing right now. L2's blitzing. Okay, here he comes. Quarterback should pull right now, and he should throw the slant. Everything else over here should all be just run the way it should be run traditionally. They shouldn't change anything. So what it's allowing me to do is it's allowing me a dress rehearsal of that RPO concept without the offensive line there. And the reason we want to do that is twofold. One, we're going to get the offensive line some quality work with the offensive line coach. The second thing is, and I think if you've been involved in RPOs in the past, you know this is the case. Your guard pulls, he blows up, he gets beat on a twist stunt, whatever. Now all of a sudden there's a free runner comes in, wraps up your quarterback, and your quarterback doesn't make the read, he doesn't make the throw. I'm not interested in that wasted time. I want to get the kids on and off the field in 2 hours flat. And so doing this kind of stuff allows me to see if all my skill guys got the rep done correctly. I know when I go to team time, I've only got to call this play once or twice, make sure it looks right, and then I can move on.
Yeah, it's sort of a version of the old 7-on-7 where you're just working on your passing game versus the coverage shell. Right. And so now what you've got is I can throw the slant to the front door, I can throw the now to the back door, I can give to the counter, I can give or keep and read off that 5 technique. So it gives you a lot of options, and you can get a lot of reps in there, can't you?
Yeah. Well, and if you guys watch the video we did yesterday, to me, this is just back to triple option football. So it plays right back into that conversation. Pre-snap option to the slant, as Rick said, pre-snap option to the now screen, give is a third option, pull is a fourth option, throwing to the now screen is a fifth option. So there's 5 places that football can go. So really, if I want this play to be run and executed well on Friday night, I would have to theoretically make the quarterback execute all 5 pieces of that. Now, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to give him a read, and I'm going to say, okay, you put the ball here. The read was correct. Now, what if they had done this? Well, then I would have done that. Okay, well, that's a rep. Okay, that's a mental rep and a physical rep, and I just got them both in about 8 seconds, and I can move on. And that's how we get a lot of concepts, or what looks to the defense like we run a lot of concepts done, because we're getting mental reps and physical reps done at the same time, and we're stacking and layering that information out there so that our guys are learning a lot in a very short period of time.
Excellent. Hey, we were going to talk about our feedback loop with S2A's GPS, but let's leave that as sort of a cliffhanger and come back to that the next time we're YouTube live. And because I think you got a lot of meat on the bone just by watching this and looking at this shell and how you describe it. But so you teach all your concepts in practice through the shell, RPO concepts. Is that correct?
Yeah. We don't go 11 on 11 for any kind of RPO stuff until we get to the end of practice, because I would prefer to have it taught that way before we bring the big boys in there and put them in there. And it also allows the O-line coach the time to make sure that we're actually blocking things correctly. We're running a camp this summer in Decatur, Illinois, and this is how we're going to teach all the kids in the camp as well. So it's not just how we're going to do things at our high school. It's also how we're going to do things at the camp. We're going to model for all the people that come to that event as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get anything about the camp, it's surface2airsystem.com. Go to the camp tab, surface2airsystem.com. Go to the camp tab and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get these notifications when Coach goes on live and has some nuggets to teach. And Coach, people that want to get in touch with you, we've been putting it on Twitter that they fill out just a quick form of when they can receive a call, what time, what they want to talk about. And basically, you're going to give them about 15 minutes of your time to answer any kind of their offensive questions as it relates to RPOs and an offensive system, aren't you?
Yeah, we had one of those calls last night. It was a great call, and got a lot of things answered and a lot of insight. If you follow at S2A System on Twitter, or you follow me at Coach Hargett, all lowercase, HARGITT, you'll see those things tweeted out and retweeted out. Fill out the form. Rick will give you a call. He'll kind of set the agenda, make sure that we know exactly what it is you're wanting from me on the consultation call, and then we'll set the call up, set the time up, and we'll make the call to you. We'll get on the phone and we'll chat a little bit. It's a way for you to kind of get a taste test for what S2A really looks like, what being receiving consulting help on the phone really is like, and determine whether it's something you want to spend the money on and be a part of. So I would really encourage you to check that out. If you have more questions, you can also email me. My email is coachhargett, HARGITT @gmail.com. Or, like I said, check me out on Twitter at Coach Hargett.
Appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for stepping out and doing this during your school day. And, that's the number one thing. I think you're accessible and you want to help football and football coaches. So much obliged. Adios. All right. Goodbye.